We're on a boat!
Hey, welcome aboard, Kids Club. I'm T.
I'm May.
And I'm Chris.
And today, we're on a lake. Because today is all about a guy named Paul who was in a shipwreck. But even still, Paul was thankful, which is why today's big idea is we can give thanks. So we figured it would be fun to head out to a boat today.
But T, aren't you just a little scared of boats?
Oh, I'm fine with boats, just a little unsure about being on a boat myself.
And T, is a shipwreck the best thing to talk about when we're on, a ship?
Well, I just wanted to make sure y'all knew we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. We climbed aboard together.
Yeah, and I thought we were just, hanging out, having fun, catching some rays.
Oh, we are hanging out and we'll probably have fun, and sure, we're gonna catch some rays. Wait, we need some shade.
Oh, should we head to the other side of the boat?
No need, Christopher. Behold, my shalombrella.
Ah.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? Pretty peaceful. That's why I call it my shalombrella. Get it? Because shalom means peace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shalom. Let's talk about it. The word shalom appears a lot in the Bible. Well, shalom was the original word in Hebrew, which is the original language most of the Bible was written in. In English, shalom is usually translated as peace, which makes sense. The Bible says God gives peace to his people, like in Leviticus 26:6, when God says, "I will give you peace in the land. You will be able to sleep because no one will make you afraid." That's definitely shalom, not having any worries and being able to have rest and peace. But shalom means more than peace, quiet, or rest. Shalom doesn't just happen because there isn't any noise or activity. Shalom means God's presence is here, right now. And wherever God is, there is righteousness and justice. That means people follow God and treat others the way they would want to be treated. Which also means where people are not following God, true shalom is impossible. Like in Isaiah 59:8, God says about wicked people, they don't know where to find peace or what it means to be just and good. No one who follows them knows a moment's peace. In other words, when we decide to treat other people with justice and goodness, God says we are on the path that leads to peace. Which is why Jesus, God's Son, who always followed God's way, was called the Prince of Peace. And Jesus said for anyone who follows him, "I am leaving you with a gift, peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give is a gift the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or afraid." And that's a little of what the Bible says about shalom.
No matter where I am, when I open my shalombrella, I feel a little bit more at peace.
Yeah, like everything's right in the world.
Under your shalom umbrella.
Brella, Ella, A.
Hey.
What were we talking about?
Peace, boats, sunshine,
Wasn't there something about the, Bible?
Oh, yep. Paul, Shipwreck, giving thanks.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Oh, well, too bad, because Paul's shipwreck was nothing like that. It was nothing like that at all. It was chaotic. It was frightening. It was something like this.
God's story, Paul's shipwreck. So part of God's story is about how Paul was shipwrecked, and it goes like this. Paul was a missionary. That means he traveled all over to tell people the good news of God's son, Jesus. This wasn't always safe for Paul to do because many people didn't believe Jesus is God's son. They thought Paul was dangerous, so they accused him of things he didn't do and threw him in jail. Paul and some other prisoners were put on a ship that was headed to Rome, where they would be put on trial. A Roman officer named Julius was in charge of Paul and the prisoners. He was kind to Paul, and before they left on their trip, he let Paul see his friends and get what they needed. It was going to be a very long, difficult trip. There were strong winds and big storms, and they had to change course over and over again. Paul knew that if they kept trying to sail in these rough waters, they might die. He tried to warn the officers, but they wouldn't listen. So they kept on sailing. And then things went from kind of windy to powerful hurricane-force winds. The sailor tried to steer the ship, but it was blown off course. The ship was out of control. The ship took a violent battering for days, and the men threw their cargo overboard to make the boat lighter. It was so dark that they couldn't see the sun during the day or the stars at night. Everyone started to give up hope, except Paul. Paul stood up in front of the others and told them to take courage, because not one of them would be lost. Only the ship would be destroyed. He told them that an angel of God appeared to him the night before and said, "Don't be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you." Paul told them that he trusted God and he knew God would keep his promise. Finally, after 14 long, cold, and scary nights, the sailors could see land approaching. And they were so eager to escape the sinking ship that they started lowering the lifeboats. But Paul told them that everyone needed to stay together on the boat, or no one would survive. So the officers cut the lifeboats free, and they all stayed together. Before the sun came up, Paul encouraged everyone to eat some food and build up their strength for what was about to happen. He knew that everyone was afraid, so he reminded them that God said everyone on the ship would be safe. After that, Paul took some bread and gave thanks to God in front of the others. Then they all ate together and were encouraged. Finally, they reached the shore, and even though the ship was smashed to pieces and destroyed, all 276 people survived, just as God had promised. At first, the soldiers planned to kill the prisoners so that none of them would escape, but the officer, Julius, wanted to spare Paul's life, so Julius convinced the soldiers to let the prisoners live. Once everyone was finally on shore, the people who lived on the island came out to welcome them. They showed kindness to all the prisoners and soldiers and built a fire to keep them warm. Later, while Paul was gathering wood, he was bitten by a venomous viper. Kids, do you know what a venomous viper is? It's a dangerous, even deadly snake. Maybe Paul thought he was going to die, but instead, God kept him safe. After that, the leader of the island welcomed everyone to his home and took care of them for 3 days. The leader's father was very sick, though, so Paul prayed and placed his hands on the sick man, and he was healed. When people heard about this, every other sick person on the island came to see Paul, and they were healed too. Paul trusted that God would take care of them and give them what they needed, and that's exactly what God did. And amidst all those scary things that were happening, Paul chose to give thanks to God. He eventually made it to Rome, just like God had said, and he was able to keep preaching the good news wherever he went. And that's the story of how Paul was shipwrecked and rescued by God. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. Paul was a prisoner. He was taken on a ship. There was a storm. Everyone was afraid. God promised to keep them safe. They ate and gave thanks. They shipwrecked on an island. The people there took care of them. God used Paul to heal every sick person on the island. Paul kept preaching the good news. And that's a part of God's story.
Yikes-a-mundo!
Holy hurricane.
You ain't kidding. Although, Chris, huge storms like hurricanes that happen at the Mediterranean Sea where Paul was shipwrecked, technically they're called medicanes.
Huh. Medicanes, huh?
Sounds more like a candy cane flavored medicine. Medicaine.
Oh, or someone named Cain who meets another person named Cain. You could say that they met a Cain.
Or how about this? It's like a cane that's so old that it needs a cane. A meta-cane.
Oh, that's amazing. High five.
Okay, guys. I think we're getting off course.
Oh, just like Paul's ship.
No, May, Chris, I think we're literally getting off course. I don't remember any of this. Where's the shore? Oh my gosh, I knew we were gonna get lost at sea. Yar! I knew it would happen, mateys. There's treachery about these waves, I tell ye, treachery! 'Tis near and far, on the open seas, abandon course and dropped anchor.
T?
Yar!
We can't understand actually what you're saying. Can you stop talking piratese and tell us what you mean?
Oh, yeah, it's time for a break.
Oh. Cool. So we're going to take a break in a bit so you can imagine more about Paul's shipwreck.
Shipwreck? Did someone say shipwreck?
Oh, T, buddy, it's okay. Hey. Come on.
While Chris and T figure out what's going on, spend some time with the people around you talking about a time when maybe you felt like Paul might have felt during the shipwreck. Have you ever felt afraid, worried, lonely? Maybe when you feel that way, it's hard to remember to give thanks. Share with the people around you, and we'll be right back. Hopefully.
Baptism. When a person publicly declares they're laying down their old life so they can start a new life following Jesus. Also, they get dunked in water. But don't worry, it doesn't look like this. Thinking about getting baptized? Learn more at crossroads.net/baptism.
Welcome back. So, quick recap. We can give thanks no matter what situation we're in. Just like when Paul gave thanks, even though he was shipwrecked. Even when he was afraid because things around him were dark, stormy, and out of control. Sorry, T.
But how? How do we give thanks no matter what? Since T is doing whatever that is, we'll take it from here. Ready, Chris?
You bet, May.
One of the best ways we can give thanks to God is, well, by telling him thank you. Remember what Paul did during the storm, right before the shipwreck? Paul said to the other people on the ship, "Please eat something now for your own good, for not a hair of your heads will perish." Then he took some bread, gave thanks to God before them all, and broke off a piece and ate it. Did you catch that? Paul broke bread and started to share it with everyone around him to give them strength and courage. But first, Paul gave thanks. Can you imagine that? In the middle of the dark, in the middle of the storm, while people around him are afraid and exhausted, Paul gave thanks to God. Even when everything around him was out of control, Paul had self-control. He kept himself calm. He remembered his life was in God's hands. And so he gave God thanks. We can do that too. We might never be on a boat in the middle of a storm, but I bet you can think of times when you felt afraid, or tired, or angry, or sad. Those feelings can feel like storms. It can seem like you're fighting to have self-control. It can seem like you're alone. You might even wonder if God knows what's going on. And then you can have peace in the middle of the storms. You can have self-control. You can remember your life is in God's hands. Whatever you're going through, wherever you are, God is with you. And you can always spend time with him and talk with him. And you can always give thanks. So, sometime this week, give it a try. Spend time with God. Tell him what makes you feel worried, afraid, happy, tired, angry, excited, or sad. He wants to hear from you. And he wants to give you his shalom. Hey, buddy.
Hey, May.
We're here, T.
Oh, thank you, Chris. I'm so sorry about earlier. I was just a little overwhelmed, and then I got a little seasick.
Oh. That's okay, buddy. Water?
Oh, thanks. I would love some water.
Bread?
No bread. I don't have much of an appetite.
More for the ducks.
Oh, man. This boat ride is amazing, especially now that we remember to get under the good of the Shalom umbrella.
It really is.
Glad you're feeling better, T.
Yeah, sometimes storms are outside and sometimes the storm is within.
What do you mean?
Oh, well, Paul's storm was all around him. Mine is all in my head. Well, mostly.
Well, like I said, glad you're feeling better. It is much more peaceful now.
Absolutely. Onward! I feel like the captain.
Oh, you're an extraordinary captain. Captain?
Huh?
Take in the scenery, Captain.
Extraordinary captain. Oh, snap.
Say what?
We almost forgot the recap.
Oh.
recap.
A guy named Paul was following Jesus. Paul ended up getting shipwrecked. While he was getting shipwrecked, Paul gave thanks. He also served the people around him. Paul was a lot like Jesus. We can be a lot like Jesus too. One way we can be more like Jesus is
We can give thanks. Hidden. Although, Chris, huge storms like hurricanes. Yeah, God. Okay.